Welcome back. Investigating Crossfire Hurricane. Former FBI Director Jim Comey appearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee yesterday to answer questions about the Bureau's probe into ties between Russia and the Trump campaign. Watch.
Do you agree with Mr. Horowitz that the dossier was central and essential to the Carter Page FISA warrant application being approved?
I agree that it was important. I can't tell you whether it was essential, and by that I mean that it wouldn't have been granted without the Steele information.
How is it possible that the system gathers so much exculpatory information, this internet rumor according to the CIA, that the actual interview of the subsource disavows the reliability of the document, that the actual subsource was a suspected Russian spy? How could all that happen and not get up to you, the director of the FBI, of one of the most important investigations in the history of the FBI? How is that possible?
I can only speculate because it didn't. And as I said, the investigation overall was incredibly important. The piece you're focused on is obviously important, but a much smaller slice.
Well, it's very important to Mr. Page. It should be important to every American.
Joining me right now is Georgia Congressman, House Judiciary Committee member Doug Collins. Congressman, it's always a pleasure to see you. Wow, he really forgot everything, huh?
Yeah, I don't know what amnesia pill he took, but I think, you know what I think it was? I think it's called a Durham amnesia pill, because when you all of a sudden start seeing subpoenas, you already start seeing an investigation that's actually going into what you did and didn't do. It's amazing how much you forget, instead of going like we've seen Jim Comey do over the years when he was bragging to a reporter about how they got in early in the administration to take advantage of General Flynn during the chaos of the transition, and when he would be very braggadocious about what they did and how they did it. It's amazing what happens when you're under oath and that subpoena threat out there and he's having to answer for what he did now. It's also very unbelievable that he didn't know the things that are going on. It's really a sad day yesterday for him, but it's also a truth day for America. Carter Page and all Americans deserve much better than they got from Jim Comey.
So, I mean, is this going to fly, Congressman? We know that the FBI interviewed the subsource on January 24th, 2017. It's all in the Horowitz report. It's all right there. And that subsource told the FBI everything in the dossier was hearsay. It was made up in jest while they were having beers. They knew it was a fraudulent document, and yet they used that document to get a warrant to spy on an innocent American, Carter Page. Is this going to fly? He says he has no idea about it. It never got up to him. How's that possible?
I don't think it is possible, and there may be subways that he's getting around it. But let's understand, it was not just used once. It was used multiple times. It was discussed multiple times. And now we have, and the thing that we've talked about, and how many times, Maria, have we done this? Talked about the information. We released transcripts last year. We've done all these things. And every time we peel back the onion, we see another layer. And this week, when John Ratcliffe declassified documents that showed it actually went back to the Hillary Clinton investigation, and Hillary Clinton wanting Donald Trump investigated, and she let the handmaidens at the FBI do her work for her. This just shows that this is even bigger, and continuing on. I would love to see a next round of do this even more, because it cannot stand when they can do this to an American citizen, and they can do it to a presidential candidate and then to a president. This is just wrong. It can be happen to anybody. It could happen to you. It could happen to me, and this has to stop. I mean, look, for him to say that everything was done by the book, if this is what was done by the book, I think you almost go back in and take everything at the FBI during his tenure and say, we need to look at the book, because if this is the way the book was being interpreted, the American people were being disserved.
Oh, my God, this is exactly what I was thinking about yesterday, Congress. I almost called you to discuss this, because here's the problem. Jim Comey is saying that this is not happening on his watch and it never got up to him. Well, maybe if that's the way he conducts interviews, we need to look at how he dealt with, for example, Martha Stewart. What about the Enron case? Is this the way they just operate? Is this the regular operations of the FBI, that they just roll over exculpatory evidence? They just ignore the other side and just keep on plowing forward? I mean, what you just mentioned, the John Ratcliffe stuff, that's incredible. A bombshell letter, I have it in front of me actually, from the Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, and he declassified this intelligence assessment, saying that Hillary Clinton approved a plan to link then-candidate Donald Trump to Vladimir Putin and the Russian hacking of the DNC. The letter also says that the Obama administration was briefed on these allegations as well. Senate Judiciary Committee member Ted Cruz was here yesterday. He is talking about former CIA Director John Brennan as being a central role and a mastermind here. Watch this. Got to get your reaction. Who do you think the mastermind of this all was? Was it Hillary Clinton or somebody else?
From what I've seen, John Brennan was right at the middle of all of this. John Brennan, running the intelligence agency, seems to be pulling an awful lot of the strings. But Comey was right in the middle of it, and Hillary and Obama and Biden all personally signed off on it.
So, Congressman, yesterday you called on FBI Director Christopher Wray to resign because of all of this, given the Bureau's knowledge of this information. What's your take on all of this?
Well, I think there's an intersection now in Washington, D.C., and we saw it under the Obama administration. The intersection came right through the Oval Office, and it's an intersection of Hillary Clinton, Brennan, Clapper, Comey, all of these, McCabe, which they knew what was going on. This is what's so stunning, that people are just blowing this off as some political idea or something that was designed to help the president. This was an attack on a candidate and an attack on a president, and it went through the previous Oval Office is what we're seeing, and it went through the highest levels of the previous administration. So for me, just like I said a moment ago, if this is the way the FBI was doing the books, then why not Christopher Wray? As he has not given this information, he's had this information. As this information keeps coming forward, why is he not taking more steps to actually bring this to light, to actually show what happened? Instead, he's not. He stonewalled it. It's time for him to do what's best for the American people and resign, because what we have seen cannot happen again. This is something that, Maria, you've been on the out front of. We've been talking about this, but when an administration decides to use the power of the FBI to actually try to suppress those who would run against them or their enemies that they feel like are out there, then you've got a problem. And the intersection ran right through the Oval Office in the previous administration.
Yeah, and, you know, Ted Cruz talking about John Brennan. I've talked about him as well because he was pretty much running his own book over there at the Pentagon. He had the Office of Net Assessment and these huge payouts to people like Stefan Halper, who made $411,000 right before they clinched the warrant to spy on Carter Page. The Office of Net Assessments claimed it was $400,000 for Stefan Halper to study China and Russia and write a report on it. I've never heard those kinds of numbers in the academic world. Yeah.
No, it's amazing. And one thing let's report out for people who may casually watch this, I don't know how they would, but let's remember this by-the-book investigation saw that FISA warrants were being changed. Klein Smith has pled guilty to actually changing a FISA warrant. We've actually seen the issues come forward as we go forward where they've actually spied on American citizens. They've done these things. This was not by the book. Jim Comey can say it to as long as he wants. He can say he forgot about anything and even his own name, but he can't forget about what he has done.
All right, and we won't forget. We're watching it as well. Congressman, good to see you this morning. Thank you, sir.